I please ask that we go live? Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this meeting of the Planning and Highways Committee. Before we move to the formal business, for those joining us online today, I am Councillor Sandra Picking and I am the Chair of the Planning and Highways Committee. Also joined at today's meeting by Councillor Stuart Eptingstall, the Deputy Chair of the Committee. And committee members, Councillors Blizzard, Harvey, Epworth, Jones, Scott, Swift, Taylor, Tennant-King, Whitehouse and Williams. The committee also asked support at today's meeting from Kevin Winter, our planning solicitor, together with Ian Pollard, our planning service manager. And team leaders, Julie Aycock and Ruth Thackeray, will be introducing the planning applications for us today. Before we move on to the formal agenda, I'd just like to confirm today's meeting procedures, which will take each item on the agenda in order, copies of which have been provided to members and also available on the Council's website. I would remind colleagues, alongside those registered speakers who are participating in today's meeting, to ensure that your microphone is on mute throughout the meeting unless invited to speak, to minimise the potential of background noise disrupting the meeting broadcast. In accordance with the Council meeting procedure rules, my ruling as Chair debate will be final. When invited to speak, members of the committee and participating members of the public will need to unmute your microphones, state your name before addressing committee. Please remute your microphone once you have finished speaking. I will invite any colleague wishing to comment on the reports or ask questions to do so at the appropriate points in the meeting, and all members should now be familiar with the procedure in place to indicate they wish to ask a question or a comment on matters before us. At the end of the debate on the planning applications, I will call for a vote to be undertaken. In order for all parties to be clear as to how the vote has gone, I will invite the committee officer to undertake a roll call. The committee officer will ask each member by name to confirm their vote. They will be achieved by members turning on their microphones individually and stating clearly for, against or abstain. The committee officer will summarise the result at the end of roll call. If everyone is happy, then I shall proceed with our formal business. Agenda item 1 is Chair's announcements, and I would like everyone at the meeting of the Planning and Highways Committee are not public meetings. They are, however, council meetings held in public, and only those registered to speak will be allowed to do so at the allotted time. During the course of the meeting, it may be necessary to adjourn for a short period, and if this is needed, I will indicate this clearly to the committee, and if required, request that we pause broadcast during the adjournment. Can I ask have all members got the additional information? And I will take your silence as an agreement. And I also ask that all phones are switched onto silent or off, please. Agenda item 4 is to receive apologies for absence. Can I ask Claire if we have any apologies?
Just Councillor Sanders, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 5 is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Move them, Chair.
Second, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll take everyone in favour as a silence. Thank you. That's carried. Agenda item 6 is to consider applications brought before us today, and we have 2 applications. I will outline the procedure to be followed. Firstly, the planning officer will be invited to present the application. Registered speakers will then be invited to speak one at a time, and I will be grateful to speakers if they confirm for the benefit of the committee if they are speaking against or for the application. Members of the committee will be invited to ask registered speakers questions if they need to clarify any points raised. Any local ward member who has registered to speak on the application will be invited to do so. The committee will then be invited to ask the local member any questions if they need to clarify any points raised. Should the need arise, I will seek any points of clarification from the presenting officer or legal advisor. The committee will then be invited to debate the application as necessary, and I will invite the planning officer to respond to any points raised during the discussion. The matter will then be taken to the vote. I will now ask the planning officer, Julie, to undertake the first presentation. Oh, sorry, it's Ruth. Got that the one way round. I'm going from last time. The first application is by Ruth, and it's residential development of 8 dwellings, Stanley and Outward. Over to you, Ruth.
Excuse me, Chair. It's Kevin here, the planning solicitor. Did you forget declarations of interest?
Sorry, Kevin. It is on my list. Have we any declarations of interest? Councillor Williams?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. Councillor Williams, Ward 15. Item 6.1. I have previously objected to this application on access grounds. Although this is a completely different application, I feel I should declare an interest and take no part in the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. No further declarations? Thank you. Now back to Ruth.
Thank you, Chair. Will you just bear with me while I share my screen, please? Okay, hopefully everybody can see the screen and you can hear me. Item number 1 is an application seeking planning consent for 89 dwellings, including the demolition of 298 Leeds Road and creation of a new access from Leeds Road. Okay, so if we can just go through the slides, the application site is outlined in red to orientate everybody. This is Leeds Road. The creation of the new access will be from this point. Silver Street is located to the north of the site and 2nd Avenue is to the south of the site. There's some photographs here of the surrounding area. The first picture is the proposed access from Leeds Road. So this will be is number 298 that will be demolished, and the new access will be created here and a new dwelling built in this location. Just a little bit further down the road, there's a hand car wash on Leeds Road. This is the private shared driveway that 4 dwellings currently use to access their properties from Leeds Road. Picture number 4 is a route from 2nd Avenue, currently used by pedestrians. Picture number 5 shows the pedestrian route from Silver Street, and picture number 6 is the link from 2nd Avenue viewed from the application site. Just from some photographs here from within the site, so this is the view looking south towards the dwellings to the south of the application site. Number 8 is a picture of the dwellings to the west of the site, which front onto Leeds Road. Picture number 9 is looking in a northerly direction. Properties on Leeds Road here to the left of the photograph, and these are the rear of the properties on Silver Street to the north of the site. Picture number 10 shows the rear of the dwellings on Leeds Road. Number 11 is the rear of the dwellings on Silver Street. You can probably see from this photograph and the next photograph that the site actually does have changes in its elevation, so it does rise up towards the centre of the site. So these properties are slightly lower than the application site. Photograph number 12 shows a view of the rear of the dwellings on Silver Street. Picture number 13 is also at the other end of Silver Street, the rear of those properties. And number 14 is a view towards the dwellings on the south of the site. Number 15 is a view towards the proposed detention basin. which will be in this location, and this is the part of the site that is located within the green belt. The housing allocation is just this area to the west of the application site. An aerial view of the site just shows some of the footpaths that exist on the application site, although none of these are registered as public right-of-way, with the exception of a public right-of-way that runs along this side of the application site. So these trodden footpaths, hopefully you can see where people have accessed and used this area for informal recreation. So this is the proposed site layout. The existing dwelling here on Leeds Road would be demolished and the new access created off Leeds Road, and a new dwelling constructed in this location. This shows us in a slightly more detailed view the proposed improvements on Leeds Road, which would provide a right turn lane into the application site and also a right turn lane into Willow Park on the opposite side of Leeds Road. This gives you an idea of the proposed landscaping. So you can see that there are hedgerows proposed along this boundary between the housing development and the application and the area to the east, which is in the green belt. Footpaths are proposed, which would be bonded gravel that will enable people to access this open land, which will be provided for informal recreation. So there's 2 access points to the eastern boundary of the site, and a pedestrian access would also be provided from to 2nd Avenue in this location. There's some sections through the site here that give you a better idea of the changes in elevations. So these are the properties on Silver Street. There would be some cut and fill exercise would take place should members be minded to approve the application, and the houses would be constructed at a higher level than the dwellings on Silver Street. So these just give you an idea of those changes in level. So section A is in this location and it moves through to section C at the other end. The greatest increase would be at this point. The separation distances are a minimum of 25 metres from the existing dwellings to the new dwelling. And this just shows an example of how the green retaining wall would be constructed. To see that in this location here. Some more sections that show the relationship with the existing dwellings around the site. So section D is between the Leeds Road properties and the proposed dwellings. Section E is from Silver Street in this location, where the dwellings will be gable on to the existing houses, and section F shows the relationship between the properties in this location. So this is the property on Silver Street, this is the proposed bungalow, which will be to the rear of that property. And this just gives you some street scenes that show you the type of houses that are proposed, which are a mix of 2-storey and 2.5-storey across the development, with the exception of the bungalow, which, as I said, is located in this part of the site. Just take it back. Site layout. So the application site is allocated for housing, and it's therefore considered that the principle of housing within the allocation is acceptable and accords with the development plan, subject to satisfying other material consideration. The scheme includes the provision of a surface water attenuation basin within the greenbelt land to the east of the housing, which has been designed as a wetland pond. Grass Creek covered access path would be provided, along with gravel paths which would link to footpath 36 to the east of the site, and it's considered that these features would not significantly impact the long-term openness of the area, would not significantly harm the visual amenity or character of the landscape. The land to the east of the development provide informal recreation space, which is considered to be appropriate within the green belt, and retention of the use of the land for recreation and its future maintenance will be secured by legal agreement. The layout of housing has been designed to respect the amenity of existing residents, and the proposal will provide a good standard of housing environment for future occupiers. It's acknowledged that the scheme will alter the character of this particular site. However, it's considered that it would be read from the wider landscape within the context of the existing urban area. Subject to conditions, it's considered that the development would not significantly detract from the character of the locality and will be satisfactorily accommodated by existing and enhanced services. A significant number of local objections have been received, which are detailed within the agenda. Members are advised that an additional comment has been received, which expresses disappointment that the decision appears to have already been made and the application approved. It's acknowledged that the previous application for housing on this site raised significant highway concerns with members. The proposed access on the previous application was to be taken from 2nd Avenue to the south of the site in this location. As a result, the applicant withdrew the application with a view to addressing members' concerns. The current development would have a single vehicular access direct from Leeds Road. The internal layout, proposed parking and pedestrian routes are considered to accord with policy. Off-site highway improvements are proposed, including a right turn lane off Leeds Road, and a contribution for a traffic regulation order would be secured by legal agreement to provide double yellow lines to control on-street parking at the new junction. Pedestrian links are proposed from the site onto 2nd Avenue and at 2 points along the eastern boundary of the development, and it's considered that the links would encourage residents to access local services on foot and would enable local residents to access open land east of the development for informal recreation. The applicant will be required to make a contribution toward community infrastructure levy, and 8 affordable housing dwellings would also be secured as set out in the agenda. This equates to a 9% contribution. Although this is short of the policy requirement for 30% affordable housing, the applicant has demonstrated that a 30% contribution would not be viable. Development of the site will require a cut and fill operation to take place, which the applicant has indicated could take approximately 24 weeks, and the overall project around 102 weeks. Construction will result in noise and disturbance, and conditions are recommended for submission of detailed schemes to control construction noise and dust, lighting, and to agree the locations of staff parking and staff welfare facilities, and to limit the hours of construction works and deliveries. Other material considerations are detailed within the agenda, and no objections are raised by statutory consultees, subject to the conditions and informative set out in the report. It's therefore considered the proposed development accords with relevant policy and guidance. Approval is recommended, and if members are minded to resolve to approve planning permission, it's advised that members delegate the legal agreement and final wording of the planning conditions to the Chair and Vice Chair of the Planning and Highways Committee and the Council's Service Director for Planning and Highways. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ruth. We have 2 speakers for objections today, but they are unable to log on. So James Long will read out the first 2. James, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me all right? Can you hear fine, Chair?
Yeah, I'm fine, James.
Right. The first one is from a local resident by the name of Mr. Rookledge. My main objection to the proposed development is the loss of access and egress over driveway at 298 Leeds Road. There are 4 dwellings on the Crescent Drive, with an entrance each end directly onto the main road. Both are used on a regular nightly basis. It is clearly understood that movement across each property's part of the drive is a right of way, and the developer has no right to come and change the status quo. Furthermore, the mess of mud and then dust, noise pollution of tipper trucks removing earth from the site will be horrible. The safety of exiting the site directly onto Leeds Road is another concern. Lastly, the proposed plan of dwellings will rise above the existing houses, giving light and privacy issues. And on the 12th of November at 8:15 a.m, a pickup blocked the drive and unloaded substantial amount of roadwork signage and barriers onto 298 Leeds Road property. I don't think Taylor Wimpey would do this if it was not already a done deal. That's the end of that objection speech. The second one is from Mrs. Williams. Residents of Willow Park already have difficulty accessing Leeds Road, mostly because of inconsiderate parking both on Leeds Road and at the entrance of Willow Park. The highway code stipulates that one should not park within 30 feet of a junction, but this is continuously ignored and is often very dangerous to try to turn right towards Wakefield, as views of oncoming traffic are obscured. It is sometimes necessary to turn left to go towards Leeds, then turn right into Silver Street or Grace Street, find a safe place to turn around and then access Leeds Road to go south to Wakefield. People often park at the very end of Willow Park, leaving little space for anyone turning in from Leeds Road. I've approached Wakefield Council with this problem before, but apparently double yellow lines are not warranted here, as there have never been any major incidents. There are 28 dwellings on Willow Park and 91 on the proposed site. The potential for any major accidents obviously increases greatly if drivers are trying to access and leave these sites at the same time. It seems that the junctions of Willow Park and the new access road would form a four-arm staggered crossroads with space for waiting vehicles. Having looked at the plans so far, I can see very little evidence of these waiting spaces or where they might be placed. The difficulty of turning right from Willow Park will be exacerbated by the traffic emerging from the new development. I realise that new houses have to be built, and the land on Newton Hill is a very convenient place for a new development, but I think that the council should consider the problems already faced by residents in this area and deal with them before creating new ones. That's the end of that speech as well. There'll now be a slight delay because I need to get the agent, who's obviously speaking on behalf of the applicant, onto the phone to deliver his own speech.
Thanks, James. I'm ready when you are. The next speaker will be Stephen Carter, who is speaking on behalf of the applicant. And as you've heard, James is trying to get him through the phone, and we will be able to pass it on. But we will have a short delay in him answering any questions.
Hello, Chair. This is Stephen Carter. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. I'll start my speech. Good morning, Chairman and members. I'm the applicant's planning consultant, and I'm here to speak in support of the planning application. Firstly, we'd like to take the opportunity to thank your officers for their work on the planning application. We've been working with them since the pre-application stage, and their input throughout the process has been invaluable. It has also resulted in the planning application securing no objections from any statutory consultees. We are seeking planning permission for 89 dwellings and the creation of a large area of public open space. This is an ideal location for delivery of housing. It's accessible by public transport and has excellent links to the central Wakefield. This view was confirmed by the council as the majority of the sites is allocated for housing within the Wakefield local plan. A significant amount of work has gone into addressing the concerns raised by members of the previous planning committee. The current planning application has now secured access directly onto Leeds Road, therefore removing the need for future residents to travel through the surrounding residential streets, which was a principal concern of members in respect to the previous scheme. It's recognised there has been a number of objections to the planning application. The majority of these relate to the principle of development, which has already been established by the case of the site. There has been objections in respect to the creation of the public open space and the surface water attenuation basin and the neighbouring land, which falls within the green belt. However, as identified in your officer's report, these uses are classed as acceptable forms of development within the green belt by national planning policy. The use of land for POS will deliver a significant new resource to the local community and safeguard this land from any future development pressure. Proposed development will deliver a number of other benefits, including provision of new public footpaths linking through the POS onto a wider public right-of-way network, the delivery of a significant net biodiversity gain of over 20% through the creation of a number of new wildlife habitat, the provision of public transport improvements in the form of 2 live bus information boards onto Leeds Road, the creation of a new strong defensible greenbelt boundary in the form of large native species hedgerow, the creation of approximately 119 construction jobs and a further 158 jobs in the wider supply chain. In respect to the objections, the existing access arrangements for the properties on Leeds Road will be retained and enhanced by an improved junction. A framework construction environmental management plan has also been submitted, which will set out measures to control the construction process and minimise the disturbance on local residents. We therefore respectfully request that members support the officer's recommendation and grant planning permission for the application proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cursor. I will now take questions from committee. Please be mindful that we will have a short delay in answering you back because of the connection. Have we any questions, please, for Mr. Cursor? Councillor Blizzard.
Thank you, Chair. If we were mindful to accept this application, could I ask Mr. Corser what measures it would put in place to be more considerate to the residents when this construction were taking place? We've just heard now from one resident that his driveway were blocked off with a lorry dropping things off. You know, what assurances can Mr. Corser give us that this won't be reoccurring from day to day?
It's James Long again. Stephen just had some problems hearing your question, Councillor Blizzard, so he's going to watch it on YouTube, and when he's heard the question, he's going to answer it through my phone.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, James. Could you also ask him another question that there were deposits of mud on the road, and I'm not just talking about with tyres and things like that. I mean deposits of mud. How would he mitigate that, and what plans has he got to be able to get rid of that mud, please?
Yep, I'll pass it on to him, Councillor.
Thanks, James.
Councillor Epworth, you've left your mic on, can you please turn it off?
Thank you, Councillor. In respect to your question about the mud on the highway, I think as the big framework environmental management plan, we set out some criminally made measures to safeguard the local environment, including potential, mud being poured onto the highway during the construction process. They are proposing to have regular street cleaning, and for that to be monitored as well. And also, we're accepting conditions for the production of full construction environmental management plan as well, be submitted to the council, which will also have further details on this point. So there will be robust procedures put in place to ensure that, there is not any sort of mud on the highway is controlled. Does that address your question, Councillor?
Can I come back on that, Chair?
Yeah, Councillor Bazard.
The reason why I'm asking all this, Mr. Corser, is because time and time again, we as local members, we have developments in our areas, and the biggest thing that residents complain about is construction traffic and mud on the road. And I would like to ask if the ward councillors of that area where you're developing, if we are mindful to let it go through, if they can have a phone number for you or your company that they can ring straight away and say, there's mud on the road, we want it cleaning off. Because it just gets bogged down with our enforcement and it's not right. So could you give me some reassurances on that, please?
I'm sure that can be facilitated. We would normally be a site manager on the site, and I'm sure Taylor will be amenable to their contact details being provided.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Can you just confirm, I mean, in 2017, you applied for 82 dwellings, now it's 89. How have you achieved the other 7 properties? And back in 2017, what was the percentage of affordable housing then, when it's at only 9% now, and you're putting another 7 houses on? Thank you.
I think the increase in the number of units is due to a different housing mix on the scheme. So it's a more efficient housing mix than was previously proposed. I cannot tell you exactly the percentage of affordable housing which was proposed in the scheme, but it was very similar because it was equally the same site constraints applied previously, and that full affordable housing requirement couldn't be provided. I think it was at a very similar level as previously.
Can I just come back on that, Chair, because I can't really tell what Mr. Corser's saying.
Yes.
Can I just confirm it's another 7 properties, and is it a different layout, or have you just squashed them closer together, or are the houses a different type, or have you just made them smaller?
I think it's a different housing mix than previously provided, and some different housing types as well. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's really difficult making out what you're saying. I'm sorry. I don't know if other members can make out what you're saying, but I can't.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's a bit of a bad line coming through the phone. So it's a different housing mix.
It's a different housing mix.
Yeah, it is a different housing mix.
So you've not just squashed the others closer together, or made them smaller so you can't swing a cat round in houses?
No, they're some standard chain link house pipes, and they comply with the separation distances within your design guidance.
Thank you. And also the affordable housing. You don't know what the percentage was then back in 2017 when you were only doing 82 houses, but now you're doing 89 and you can still only afford 9%.
I think it was. I've not got that, but I know it was a very similar percentage, if not lower than previously. Maybe the planning officer Bruce has got an answer to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll ask the officer when we get to officers' questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Swift.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My concerns relate to the relationship of the housing on the proposed estate to the housing on Silver Street. Now, what we've got there is a relatively tight, it might fit the minimum regulations, but a relatively tight back-to-back distance, but then massively aggravated by the difference in levels. I wonder whether you'd given thought to actually setting the houses, the proposed new houses, quite a bit further, either quite a bit further back or lower, so as to improve that particular relationship.
Thank you, Councillor. A lot of consideration has gone into looking at that relationship between the properties in Silver Street and the new proposed properties along that boundary. I think the minimum normal separation distance between properties back to back is 21 metres, but the closest property on this environment is 25 metres. So there's additional allowance factored in for the different levels. And a proper consideration has been given to make sure correct issues of overlooking or on those properties a bit high. I think your planning officer highlighted a plan which shows the relationship between the two, showing the sections between the properties, which show that the relationship is acceptable in terms of the potential issues of overlooking or overbearing. Can you hear me?
Not awfully well.
No.
It's coming through loud but not very clear.
Yes, I'm having a similar issue. Just in, we are fighting above the minimum standard. The minimum standard is 21 metres between properties. We're fighting 25 metres, which takes account of the difference in levels. We produce the sections which show the relationship, and we have spent a lot of time with the planning officer on this issue, making sure that it wouldn't have detrimental impact on the properties on Silver Street. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor.
Thank you,
Councillor
Chair.
Swift. Are you
Thank
okay?
you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question. Obviously, this is going to be add-on an awful lot more polluting emissions in the neighborhood already is very crowded and congested. The contribution that you have estimated to make the proposal acceptable for this matter is £59,000, 595. So I'm just wondering whether this is enough, because the officer recommendation would be 73,690, and the total cost of the package of the measures, including provision of electric vehicle charging points, the cycle public travel vouchers and all sorts. So it's going to be a lot more than your proposal. So how are you going to be able to deliver this cost to the community?
Thank you, members. We are providing a package of other measures as well. I think you mentioned the EV charging points, which are provided for each of the dwellings to encourage the take-up of electrical vehicles. We're also providing improvements of the public transport network through live information boards on Leeds Road and information packs for local residents to encourage them to use public transport methods. In addition, we're providing the new public open space, second area of public open space, totaling, I think, something in the region of 2.8 hectares of public open space, which is hopefully encourage local residents to take local exercise and link on to the wider public right-of-way network. So there is a package of measures which will hopefully help both the local community and residents make more sustainable transport choices and address issues of air quality as well. Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If no further questions to the applicant agent, then I will go questions to the officer. Any questions for our officer? I will go to Councillor Swift, and then my alarm's going to go off here for a fire alarm in 5 minutes. So, Councillor Swift, you first.
Right. Can I be heard quite clearly?
Yes, you can, Councillor.
Yeah. I think my questions to the officer, I think just prefacing it by the fact that I've got some sympathy for the applicant in dealing with what is a pretty marginal site. I think my first question is that after the last time when the earlier version was refused, given the fact that the concerns that led to refusal were pretty much the same as the concerns that were expressed at the public inquiry when it was originally designated, was consideration given to putting this site back into the local plan with a view to it being, deallocated? Because I think we're dealing today with some of that difficulty. We're talking about a site that very marginal on viability, which is what lies behind this 9% affordable housing, complications in providing access, and a site that's being kind of jammed up a bit tight against the housing on Silver Street, presumably in order to achieve some degree of viability. That's my first question, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Swift. With regards to your question about whether it's been considered for deallocation, I believe it is still being put forward as an allocated housing site in the next plan, which is currently being consulted on. But I can't say for sure, but I do believe that is the you've mentioned the fact that it's marginal on viability. To clarify that the number of dwellings put forward for affordable housing this time round is higher than last time. So there were 4 dwellings last time, I believe. There also has been the need to purchase the existing house on Leeds Road, which I assume does come at a cost. So that is an additional cost, and there is still an increase in the number of affordable housing being provided. That has been assessed externally on behalf of the council and is considered to be robust, and we have managed to secure the maximum affordable housing that is viable on this site to enable the developer to bring it forward. I think the issues with the previous application were mainly around access, and the purpose of purchasing the additional property was to address the concerns of members with the proposed access from last time, which was on 2nd Avenue. And we are satisfied that the current proposal and the access would be an improvement on the previous scheme and is acceptable in terms of highway safety.
I have a second question, Chair.
Yeah.
That's fine, Kevin. I will warn you that we will have the alarm go off, and when it goes off, you will hear it from Ruth's laptop because she can't turn her microphone off. So we apologise in advance, and Ruth will answer if she can't after.
Thank you.
My second question, Chair, is that I noticed that one of the roads on the site goes right to the back of the area that's actually proposed for development. I'm wondering if officers might share my concern that there might be a future bid to use that road access to get to the site to the southeast, I think, of the site, normally referred to as land off Outstoke Lane, which was rejected more than once by this committee and then subsequently went to appeal. I'm wondering whether there are any concerns that that road connection might be used in an attempt to revive that particular site, which is one of the other marginal sites in the local plan in this locality. So that's the site which is just to the southeast of where your pond is, of the drainage pond.
So I assume you mean this access point here, which goes to the boundary. Yes. With the open. Yes. Land. Yeah. Yes. So there is, you can see a track here, which will be a grasscrete track to provide access to the pond, but only to provide access to the pond for maintenance purposes. The land, as you quite rightly say, in this location is allocated as greenbelt, and the previous application, the original one seeking an access through this land, was refused by the committee and dismissed at the appeal. The purpose of this access on this road is just to provide access to the pond. The land is allocated as greenbelt, so housing on there would be inappropriate. There's no justification for housing, and previous schemes have been refused. It's not been put forward by the developer for housing allocation in the current local plan that's being considered, and there will be a legal agreement as part of this application to secure the use of this land for open space only. So that will be secured through the Section 106 legal agreement.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Swift. Councillor Wallace, can I just wait a minute? You might, unless you've got 2 minute slot to get your question in before the bell goes.
All right, just quickly before bell, I'll say my question, and then probably Ruth will answer it after the bell goes. It's just clarification on the CP viability report, where there's a number of drop in the affordable houses, and all I'm saying is, could you explain why we've gone for the option which gives the lowest number of affordable houses, That's my question.
Okay. Well, you'll have seen the report that's available on public access. The initial recommendation from CP Viability was that they could provide a greater number of affordable dwellings on the site. Discussions have taken place between CP Viability and the developer to look in more detail at the construction costs and all the associated costs with bringing this site forward. Can you still hear me okay? Because the alarm's going off, but I don't think it's in this room.
No, yeah, I can hear you, Ruth, and
okay.
The alarm's just in background. It's not distracting.
Okay. So discussions have taken place between the developer and CP Viability, and it's their recommendation that the contribution as put forward for 8 dwellings on this site is the maximum that can be achieved in order to enable this site to come forward and for it to be viable for the developer.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, that answers my question, that clarification what I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. Ruth, I will refer to agenda page 36. So it's still on about the air quality questions I'm not sure about. So I quote, the change in pollutant concentration was established against prescribed national objectives to indicate the level of exposure of existing and future residents over and above the predicted exposure without the proposed development. So that stated almost that the pollutant concentration is already quite high, but on the other hand, toward the end of this paragraph, it said the proposal does introduce an increase in emission, however slight, which goes against the principle of the WYLES and national policy stated above. Later on this page, we're talking about the mitigation measures and talk about the extra cost of the extra mitigation and the condition. So could I just ask you to explain or expand a bit further to me as what exactly the issue of the air quality impact of these 89 extra dwellings in this already congested area? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harvey. The comments that are highlighted there on agenda page 36 are from the Council's scientific officer. And he is satisfied that the applicant has sufficiently looked at the air pollution that will be generated as a result of this development. They're saying that the mitigation required is considered to be acceptable, or the mitigation that they've put forward is acceptable. And that the figures given there, the 59,595.43, represents the damage cost of the air quality, and the measures that they've put forward are actually higher than that. So the total measures are actually 73,690 in terms of the improvements that are being made by the applicant. The scientific officer is satisfied with the various measures that Stephen set out for you earlier in terms of how they'll look to the impact on air quality, and given the recommendation by the scientific officer, that we believe that the measures are going to be appropriate.
Thank you, Ruth, but I'm not convinced. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions for the officer? I'll take that as a no. Therefore, the officer's recommendation is for approval. Our comments. Councillor Swift.
Simply to say, Chair, that I do remain very, very concerned about the oppressive relationship of of the new development to the houses on Silver Street. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments? No. Therefore, the officer's recommendation is for approval. I will now go to the committee officer to turn to indicate to vote. Is Claire, are you there?
Yes, Chair. I'll
Over
go
to
through
you.
each councillor by name.
Thank you.
Councillor Blizzard.
Excuse me, Chair, can I just jump in? Sorry, it's Kevin, planning solicitor. Do you need a proposer and seconder?
Move it, Chair. Propose it.
Seconded. Is that okay, Kevin?
That's fine, thank you.
Over to you, Claire.
Okay, Councillor Blizzard.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Harvey.
Against.
Councillor Hepworth. Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Swift.
Abstain.
Councillor Taylor.
Abstain.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor, could you confirm that again, please?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Tennant King.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Whitehouse.
For.
Councillor Heptonstall.
For.
Councillor Pickin.
For.
Okay, Chair, to confirm that's 10 votes in favour, 1 against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much, Claire, and that is carried. I need to say to members, we will now take a brief 10-minute break while we get for the next one. Can I ask the live stream to close, please? Can I ask councillors to turn the mics off, please?
It's gone off. Unfortunately.
Ruth, we can still hear you, love.
Sign when you are. Thank you. Welcome back, members. I will now go to our next presentation, which is the South Kirby Clinic, and Julie will now give the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just double check everyone can see the screen and can hear me?
We'll take silence as a yes.
Thank you. If I could draw members' attention to the additional information sheet that was sent out last night, it just provides a further objection that was received after the report was finalised. Members will recall that this planning application, which seeks full planning permission for the demolition of a former health centre and the erection of a new convenience store on an area of land off Barnsley
Julie,
Road.
can I ask you to pause there, please? It looks like the live stream is not broadcasting.
Okay, thank you.
Right, Julie, you can start again now, please.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just if I could draw members' attention to the additional information sheet sent around last night that contains one additional objection that was received after the report was finalised. Members will recall that this planning application, which seeks full planning permission for the demolition of a former health centre and the erection of a new convenience store on an area of land off Barnsley Road in South Kirby, was deferred from the last meeting so that further discussion could take place with the applicant regarding the proposed opening hours. I'm not intending to do the full presentation that I did last time again, but before updating on discussions regarding the hours, I'll briefly run through the presentation slide. This location plan that shows you where the site is, outlined in red, it's predominantly residential, but there is a large industrial estate, the South Kirby Lanthwaite Grange Industrial Estate to the south. Photographs. First photograph is a view of the existing access from Barnsley Road. Second photograph is the view of the site taken from the site entrance and shows the buildings associated with the former health centre. Photograph 3, again, is a view of the site taken from the site entrance. And photograph 4 is a view into the rear of the site from Lanthwaite Road. And this photograph is a photograph of the closest residential properties, number 4 and number 96 Barnsley Road. So the site plan. The store would be a single-storey building. The convenience element would extend, so the convenience, the actual shop area, would extend about 278 square metres, and the remaining area back here is the back of house. Servicing area is shown here. Access from all vehicles would be from Barnsley Road, which would be improved, and bollards would prevent out-of-hours access. There's a new egress, so all service vehicles would egress onto Lanthwaite Road, and there's bollards within that part of the site as well to prevent out-of-hours access. The bin stores, provision for parking for staff is back here, and customers parking along here, 18 spaces with 2 disabled provision spaces here. And an acoustic fence would be located along the boundary here, rising from 1.5 to 1.8 metres high. In terms of the elevations, the 2 north elevations show you the front of the store, fronting onto Barnsley Road. The east elevation is the side of the store, so that's the side of the store adjacent to the residential properties, number 94. The south elevation is the rear elevation onto Lanthwaite Road, and the west elevation is the side of the store and the elevation to the customer car park. I can take you back to the site plan. In terms of representations that have been received, members will recall, no doubt, that we've received a number of objections to the scheme, and these are detailed in the case officer's report. And a further objection is detailed within the additional information sheet that's been circulated today. Now, members will recall that the application was previously deferred because you were concerned about the opening hours. Proposed opening hours of the store are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays. Deliveries would take place between 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night, with the exception of sandwiches, newspaper and magazine deliveries, which would take place between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. by a small van, and that would be delivered to a designated drop-off box located within the service yard. Members were concerned that the operating hours would impact on residential amenity and requested the agent gave consideration to reducing the hours to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sundays and bank holidays. Following the deferment, the applicants produced a detailed statement which has been reproduced and attached to the case officer's update section and original report. The statement outlines the amendments which have already been made to the scheme, aims to justify the reasoning behind the requested hours of opening, and concludes that these are not unreasonable when considering other convenience stores within the local and wider area. The applicant also states that it's unviable to operate under the hours proposed by members. Excuse me. Officers have no evidence to contradict or dispute the points set out within the applicant's statement, but notwithstanding this, this application has been assessed on its own merits. No objections were raised by the Council's Environmental Health Officer, and the proposed opening hours are the same as those that were proposed under the previous 2017 application. The application is for a relatively small convenience store that would operate as a local shop serving the local community. It's located in a very mixed-use area that comprises a mix of residential, commercial and industrial uses located to the north and northeast on Lanthwaite Industrial Estate. The site and neighbouring occupiers are located off the B6422 highway, which will provide access for customers and service vehicles. A separate egress point for service vehicles has been provided to the rear onto Lanthwaite Road, and it's considered that the majority of visitors to the store will be pass-by traffic or local residents visiting on foot. The applicant's statement has clarified that no ATM is proposed and bollards will restrict any out-of-hours access to the site. The proposed hours are not considered unusual for a development of this nature and reflect those approved on similarly located sites in the district. The applicant has requested the application be considered and determined on the basis of the hours as proposed. Officer's recommendation remains that of approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Julie. There is no speakers registered. Can I have any questions to the officer, please? No questions. Oh, Councillor Blazard, comments?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say thank you to the applicant and their team for the report that they gave us and the pictures and everything. It makes it easier for us to look at. And I'm not saying our officers didn't do a good job, because they did, but it just makes us understand it a little bit better with what we've got in that report from Rothsay. But no, I'm fine now, Chair. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Councillor Whitehouse, just to say thank you for the amendments. I think it's been a good job. It's addressed everything that we've asked for, and I'm quite happy with that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. If there are no more questions and comments, then I go to the part. Therefore, the officer's recommendation is for approval. I will now go for a seconder, propose a seconder.
Move it, Chair.
Thank you. Seconder.
Second it, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I go to Claire now to take the vote, please?
Okay, Chair, as before, I'll go through each councillor by name. So, Councillor Blizzard.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Hepworth.
For.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Councillor Tennant King.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
Councillor Whitehouse.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Councillor Heptonstall.
For.
Councillor Pickin.
For.
Okay, Chair, so to confirm that's 14 votes for, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you very much for that. That means the application has been approved. Can I just say thank you for that. I can ask our live stream to finish, and thank you all for attending. If you'd like to stay online a minute, I will talk to you later. And we now close the live stream, please.